Well, off the back of 3 seasons and a bit of overachieving at Buxton over in England, now it's time for us to make our first move here of rookie to Rory off to Germany, and we've got £2.4 million to spend with Jahn Regensburg in the 2 Bundesliga. Hello everyone and welcome to episode number 36 of Rookie to Royalty here on Shaun Does FM, and coming up today, we've made the move from Buxton as you can see on screen. We've just joined Jahn Regensburg as we decided a couple of episodes ago, if you missed that one, quite an important one because we have 4 job interviews going on there before we made our way into the playoffs with that Buxton team. I'll leave a link to it over in the top right corner. And also yesterday, we tried to get Buxton into a playoff final in League 2, but unfortunately could not get the job done. So unfortunately, no fairy tale finish for us there at Buxton. They are going to still be in League 2 for this upcoming season. But now we make our first move of the save over to the 2 Bundesliga, and we take charge of Jahn Regensburg, a team who were expected to finish last season, but did just do enough to keep themselves away from playing in one of the promotion relegation games. To be fair, pretty similar situation compared to Buxton, but hopefully with 2.4 million that we've got to spend in our first transfer window, we can make sure these guys are safe from relegation and then build on that over our time here in Germany. So if you guys are looking forward to our first move of the save, but first up today, let's have a look at what's going on here in Jahn Regensburg, and a move apparently which is sure to spark plenty of heated debate. We've made the move from Buxton to join Jahn Regensburg. We lifted, of course, the Vanarama National League with Buxton in 2026, and the year before that, the National League North last year unfortunately got dumped out in the semi-finals of the playoffs by Blooming Fleetwood Town. Apparently, we will face pressure to bring immediate success to Jahn Stadion Regensburg, having stepped up from a previous standing to take sole charge. I'm guessing that's because we might have a director of football or something there at Buxton. Some factions in the media touted us as the favourite all along. That's not surprising. We got headhunted by quite a few clubs a couple of episodes ago. You can see there's some of the backroom staff have been shifted around and also have left. That was off the back of what we could do with the budget that they gave us to make those staff changes. And also, they finished 15th last season. In the end, they actually just did enough to make sure that they would not get relegated, albeit they were still 10 points clear of the team who were in that relegation promotion playoff game. So to be fair, they were pretty safe. That was the reason that this did feel like a pretty safe move from Buxton. A bit of a struggler they were expected to be in the 4th tier of English football. Going to the 2nd tier of German football did feel like a pretty sensible move. Last season, these guys did get knocked out in the 2nd round of the DFB Pokal. In terms of their history, their biggest spell of success was apparently during the 2010s, albeit now in game 11 years since they won a competition, but they have won the German 4th tier back in 2016, also runners-up once, and also did pick up their 6th Bayerischer Pokal. I was not too sure exactly what that competition is or if we'll even be playing in it, but definitely a team that hopefully has the capacity to be taken up to the Bundesliga or very close, and maybe then we'll get a bit more interest from some bigger clubs in Europe or in some other regions. Of course, 2 clubs loaded up from all 6 continents in this save, but so far we've only seen Europe with Buxton and now Jahn Regensburg. You can see there the transfer budget, 2.4 million. A big factor in why we made the move from Buxton, with the Tycoon there only giving us £40,000 to work with. Not much of a Tycoon, can't believe we did Aussie, oys for that Australian Tycoon. Also the wage budget a lot higher, and the stadium as well, 3 times the size of the one at Buxton. So to be fair, we are moving here to a much bigger club going forward. Now this currently is the best 11 for this Jahn Regensburg team. To be fair, you can see it there. There's a fair few transfer obligations that are going to go through once we tick forward about another month or so and the season does properly end. So I'm not too sure how important this is just yet, but it looks like these guys are best suited to a 4-2-3-1. So it'll be interesting to see if we do that or stick with our Buxton base style, the 4-3-3. In terms of the club, they wanted to sign players under 23 for the first team, develop players using the club's youth system, so that's something a bit different to what we had at Buxton. Also make the most of set pieces, albeit all that is only favoured in terms of importance. A lot more important to them is that we work within the wage budget, also 1-year contracts for old players and 2-year contracts for other first team players, be competitive in the DFB Pokal, and just attempt to avoid relegation this first season from the two Bundesliga and then become established, a solid mid-table team in this division. But fingers crossed, with that transfer budget, we might get over the line in that a little bit sooner than the end of next season. In terms of what the supporters do want, they want us to make the most of set pieces as well, get better of rivals Bergenhausen as well as Augsburg. Of course, Augsburg should be up in the Bundesliga, and also make sure that we avoid relegation from the Zwei Bundesliga. And going forward, every month we'll do the backroom staff meeting because they're boring as heck. And also, I suppose we'll do a press conference. I'll get through that off camera. So I've officially made the move here to Jahn Regensburg. You can see there our history from when we were at Buxton. Our win percentage, only 56. To be fair, it's not too high, but we've been pretty good with the expectations that our previous club in Buxton did have in the various competitions, that we did take charge of them. And it was a quick look too at the squad. Obviously, not too much of this will be relevant off the back of the transfer window. A few players with contracts expiring, and also a couple who are retiring. So already going to lose a couple of players there in our first team. So we'll just see if we can look at the ratings of these players. We can't. Maybe I need to hire an assistant manager first, so I probably should do that. With a quick look as well at Jahn Regensburg too. Can't look at the ratings of these players either. So probably the best plan here that we can make for today's episode is I'll start to hire some staff. I'll make my way through the transfer window, which of course we have 2.4 million for. The wage budget though is already over. That will get better off the back of those retirements, but maybe what we do is just slide a bit of that transfer budget over to make sure we actually have some left in the wage. So maybe that transfer budget not quite as big as we thought it might be, but still it's pretty good compared to what we've had to work with so far with Buxton. We'll make our way through the transfer window, come back, reveal what tactic we're going to roll with, and have a look through our squad for our first season in Germany. And we've gone for the best part of 2 months now with this Jahn Regensburg team, hired staff and all that sort of stuff, made some signings, and we're about to play our first game of the season, which is against Holstein Kiel. These guys expected to finish just above mid-table, but we'll probably hold off on those first couple of games until tomorrow's episode to have a look for our new club here, our second one of this save. So we'll get back into on-field action in tomorrow's episode, because today we've got to reveal all the players we've got here with our new club in this save. So obviously we had a fair bit of transfer budget to work with compared to what we had back at Buxton in League Term before then. You'll see there's not much of it left. We did shift some over into scouting so we could scout the world, but still we have spent a fair chunk of our transfer budget, only 110k left, still a little bit of money in the wage, but not too much. So we certainly, I'd like to think, have improved our squad here. So let's take a look at the players that we have signed. There might be someone going out on loan there to a team in the Free League, quite a promising young player who was already here in Daniel Romero. He's got a bit of potential at 4 stars, 2-star current. We've already got quite a few players in that central attacking midfield position. Indeed, we are going to be rocking with a 4-2-3-1 as suggested, albeit we're going to try a vertical tiki-taka, which I'm not too sure about, honestly, considering the season preview still has us quite low down, even off the back of the transfers that we did make, but not the bottom team, as was the case with these guys last season, expected to hopefully avoid one of those relegation games, because there are a few teams with the same odds as us, including the promoted Paderborn, also Elversberg, Luther Firth. I'd like to think then that maybe we could finish about mid-table with the signings we've made here with this Jahn Regensburg team. We're going to try a vertical tiki-taka, fingers crossed it might work, despite the fact that we're not actually supposed to be that good. We'll see how this tactic does get on. If you're wondering, here are some of the imposition instructions. We are going quite wide with it, and also playing with a bit of a higher tempo, more expressive. Certainly a bit different to what we were doing with our squad back at Buxton. But I'd like to think, considering that if we look here at the overall checking of our squad, the squad planner, that's where you find the comparison. I'm hopeful it's still going to be the same as it was when we first joined here physically, or maybe it was mentally. The work rate of these players is really good. We'll get rid here of the goalkeepers. To be fair, it's dropped down off back of the signings that I've made, so maybe this tactic might need a little bit of tweaking during the course of the season, but their work rate is quite high compared to most teams in the 2 Bundesligas. That's why I think a high pressing vertical tiki-taka might work with these guys, even though it's usually best reserved for teams who are expected to be the best in their division. There's the other one there in technical over on those reports in the squad planner. But now let's have a quick look at the transfers that we have made during the course of the off-season. So we've spent 2 million, we've actually sold 1.2 million worth of players, so a fair chunk of our transfer budget did get switched over into the wage budget. So first up, a couple of transfers did come through that were done by the previous management here with this Jahn Regensburg team. Ilki Sahin came in from Borussia Dortmund. He's quite young, only 17 years old, does have a little bit of potential, does the right back who can also do a job at centre back and left back. He's a solid player though, but will be down in our under-19s, but thankfully doesn't take up too much there of our wage. So that was technically the first transfer that did come through, as was Nick Booker, albeit again, this is one that we had absolutely no hand in, as he came in from Hoffenheim on a free winger come striker. Again, he does look quite handy. He will though be our backup right winger for this upcoming season, because there's players in that position who are better. So not too sure how happy he'll be once he realises he will not be an important player like the previous manager told him that he would be. Let's hope that doesn't drag down the dynamics too much, because no doubt that could be a little bit of a bugbear, but certainly looks like a very handy player as a backup right winger. So those are the two players that the previous manager did bring in here to the first team. The other players that we've brought in though, and there are quite a few, in fact there's one more that is below one of our signings for some reason, and Luka Subotic again. He's been promised to be a regular starter. He looks more like a squad player, does the Serbian centre-back formerly of Red Star there over in his homeland, so we'll see how that goes as well. A couple of signings there that honestly not too pleased with the playing time that they've been promised, but now we can actually work our way here into the signings that we have made for our first season at Jahn Regensburg. And first up, we brought in on a free from Fulham, Lewis Walden. This was someone who already was on the shortlist from our time at Buxton. The potential not quite as high as I was hoping it would be, but compared to the other two strikers who were already here at the club, and Hoof as well as Coolsweeter at the time, he actually looks better than them both and is on quite a low wage compared to them as well. So I think that Lewis Walden could be a good signing going in as our starting advance four. We probably and ideally would have got someone a little bit better, but unfortunately all the players I was looking at signing a bit better than this guy, they got snapped up by some pretty big clubs over in Saudi Arabia. There's some great free agents from over in Saudi Arabia who were available in this window, but unfortunately they did like the look of home a bit more than a move to the two Bundesliga and to Germany. So Lewis Walden's our first choice striker going into our first season. But most of those attributes do look quite good, so let's hope he'll do a job for us up front compared to our other players in that position. Christian Coolsweeter will be the backup. He's 31 years old, is the German, a little bit of a fan favourite, but that potential not too great, definitely on the downside you'd think. At that age, he's not bad, he's pretty well rounded. But if we ever look at Lewis Walden, he is actually, if we go back and have a look at him, because he's not down there in the squad comparison for some reason, a little bit better attribute-wise. So hopefully Lewis Walden will do a job for us there as our new first choice striker that we did pick up on a free. Off the back of that one area that we were really weak in here with this Jahn Regensburg team was goalkeepers. We've brought in a couple. The first of those, a new starter, and Ognjen Lucic. He comes in from Željeznica over in Serbia as well, I believe. 79 appearances for those guys. Did concede 86 goals, but his average rating not too bad over the last couple of years, and especially last year. He did keep 10 clean sheets. Looks like a relatively promising goalkeeper here. Does a 24-year-old who was 23 when we did sign him. He's a good solid option, a lot better than what we had here recently. A player that we did drop down to our B team now. So goalkeeper, a very weak area last season. They had someone on loan, I believe, from Holstein Kiel. So we really did need to improve in that goalkeeping spot. This guy we did spend £325,000 on, but considering his value now and that current ability and potential, does a little bit of room to grow. He's not too bad. The only concern is he doesn't like big matches, but fingers crossed we won't get too many of those here in the two Bundesliga. So Ognjen Lucic comes in as our new first choice goalkeeper here at Jahn Regensburg. And off the back of that, we brought in on a free the new backup to him, and Leon Herde is 20 years old out of Germany. Has a lot more potential than the guy that we dropped down to our B team. So that's the reason that we picked him up. A very reliable backup he should be, and if he can grow with some game time for that B team as well, he could be a pretty decent long-term first choice option. So hopefully we're looking pretty good now with goalkeeper with those two signings that we did make. Going down further, on the same day we brought in from Lower Hutt, so a signing from New Zealand standing my mark here on this team already, albeit he has gone straight back on loan to them. But Dean White came in for £4,000. He's got a couple of really good looking attributes there for a centre back. To be fair, I thought that potential might be a little bit higher, but still, for only £4,000, that's someone that we should be able to flip for a profit at the very least. So he comes in being loaned back out there to Lower Hutt for only £4,000. You probably won't see too much of him until a season or two's time if we're still here at Jahn Regensburg. Next up, we signed a new first choice deep line playmaker because the previous one who was here at the club is 35 years old, so we probably need to start future planning to get away from him. So Carlos Manrique comes in from Real Oviedo. This was one of our biggest spends in this transfer window of 500k, but he does look like a pretty decent deep line playmaker for this level. Some very well-rounded attributes. He comes in there from Real Oviedo, these days valued about double what we paid for him, and one of the better players in the squad with that 3.5-star current ability and 4-star potential. So just adding here a little bit of quality to this Jahn Regensburg squad, and we were very light in backups in the midfield area with the 4-2-3-1 that we are going with. Off the back of that, another midfielder that we picked up on a free yet again, this time though from Argentina, and Facundo Garcia. He comes in to be a balling midfielder, but the backup to Racine Bullock, who I'm pretty sure I've had in a previous save. Can't quite remember exactly where, maybe Blue Hell Worldwide, I'm not too sure, but he's our first choice ball winner. This guy comes in as the backup and looks like he should be pretty decent coming in on a free with 3-star current ability and 3.5-star potential. So a bit of extra depth there in midfield, which was much needed. Going down a bit further now, Charlie Allen did come in as a new first choice central attacking midfielder. This was another area where we had some players on the wrong side of 30, so was looking for a bit more youth here, and this guy was available quite cheap from Linfield for £65,000, rising up to 75. I think that's a pretty good deal considering that he looks very well suited the advanced playmaker role that we'll be using. Very good determination and very good flair, and one of the better players on our team with 3.5-star current ability and potential. So a nice cheap pickup for us there, and also does fit the club culture, one of those board objectives of being 23 or younger. So he comes in as a new first choice central attacking midfielder, even though we did tell him he'd be a squad player. We lied to him. Thankfully, he's still signed for us. So he actually should be quite happy with the game time that he'll get here this season. Going down a bit further, Pau Fernandez came in as a new backup defender at right back, albeit he probably is a bit better suited at left back, as you'll see shortly, coming in for 525k from Sabadell. In the end, I just felt like we had the money, we might as well spend it on someone when his market value was down a little bit. You can see there now valued between 750k and 1.2 million. His right foot is reasonable, so definitely should be able to do a job for us there as the backup right back. But he, a very handy player who can cover all three positions at the back, but probably just the wing back roles, considering he's only 1.77 metres tall. We saw at Buxton having some height on those fullbacks. So wing backs can be quite important, but he comes in as a squad player, is on quite a high wage for a squad player, but fingers crossed he develops into that 4-star potential, and that ends up being quite a good deal. So Pau Fernandez comes in as our new second choice right back. Going down further onto the signings that we have made, then we start to try and strengthen up our centre backs here with this Jahn Regensburg team. Justin Hubner comes in from SK Austria Klagenfurt. Wonderful name for 600k. So this was our biggest signing of the transfer window. He was just a lot better than the centre backs we already had here at the club. Has 11 caps for the Indonesian national team at only 23 years old, and is only on 5k a week. So I think he is actually a pretty good signing. Had some time at Wolverhampton Wanderers before joining his previous club over there. I want to say that's in Austria, given the name, and indeed that is the case. Did really well when in both the top flight and second tier there of Austria. So I'd like to think he'll be quite suited to the 2 Bundesliga. Just looks like a very solid centre back with good aggression and some decent height at 1.85 metres tall. Hasn't been here for too long, but hopefully can do a good job for us there as one of our starting centre backs for that fee of 600k. Probably overpaid slightly for him, but did look like a significant upgrade on what we already had here in this Jahn Regensburg squad. Going down to round off our transfers, a few free signings. Daniel Castillo comes in that deep line playmaker role, a backup to Carlos Manrique. As I said, the previous guy here who could do a job in that position was 35 years old. So it kind of felt like if we could sign someone on a free, we probably should, just to make sure that hopefully we can get rid of that one going into next season and not have to worry about a future replacement. So he comes in as a squad player, does the Ecuadorian 3-star current ability, 3.5-star potential, formerly spent some time at Shakhtar as well as Midtjylland, so should definitely be able to handle things here in the 2 Bundesliga. And going back to the final signing that we made here for the first team, Florian Carstens comes in to partner Hübner as a first choice centre back. He's a local lad, formerly of Wiesbaden and St. Pauli. He looks quite decent, probably even a little bit better there than Hübner, but we picked him up on a free only in the last couple of days. So those are the signings that we did make here with this Jahn Regensburg team. That's how we spent the 2 million that we had available for us, having switched a bit over into that wage budget. The players that we got rid of, most of them are just some pretty average players from down in our second team or from the under-19s. He not technically we actually got a bit of money from. He went to Altoon. You can see there has a bit of potential, but getting something like 400k for him is not too bad. Christian Kaufmann was a youth player, just let him go on a free, get rid of that wage. Karabara went to Zoya over in Ukraine. That was a 5k, not too bad for a player with only 2-star potential. Tim Gartner, we let go on a free to Rosenheim again, not too much potential, so got rid of him from our under-19s, alone there to the Offenbacher Kickers of Calvin Onwigwe. He's in the last year of his contract, so he'll probably leave off the back of this year with only 2.5-star potential. Below that, though, we did get rid of a couple of previous first-team players like Tiklab to El Tawoon. Sebastian Ernst was the player that we let go of off the back of the Charlie Allen signing. He's gone there for 700k, so definitely our biggest sale of this transfer window. 32 years old and was already a backup, so now would have been third choice. We've got rid of him and cashed in before he entered the final year of his contract. Sebastian Ernst was here last season, will no longer be, and the same club have picked up Elias Hoof, who would have been third choice striker off the back of that signing of Lewis Walden on a free from Fulham. Only 80k for him, but at 30 years old, he just looked a little bit average with that 2.5-star current ability and potential. So getting rid there of a couple of older players who wouldn't have really contributed too much, and also were taking up a decent chunk of wage when they were here at the club. And also Matthias Goodall, he left on a free, did have a little bit of potential, but not a lot in goals. Not too sure how good he would have been. And also a loan out there of Homar Mahmoud, who does have a bit of potential, but I dare say might be in the final year of his contract. Indeed, that is the case. We'll see how he goes there, and if he's worth keeping, the Syrian with a little bit of potential. So those are the transfer moves that we did make. So let's have a look here at our overall squad going into this season. You can see there, Lukic is the starter at goalkeeper, the one that we did bring in there for 300k, with Herdez being the backup. In terms of right back, Christian Vet was already here last season. This was a position we did not need to improve in terms of first choice. You can see him there, 28 years old, and does look quite good for a wing back on support. So he'll keep that spot there as the first choice is rated quite highly, and the fans also do like him quite a bit. Did spend some time previously at Borussia Dortmund and St. Pauli, but has now been here for quite a while. Should be a good option for us there over Pau Fernandes as that right back. That's who, of course, we brought in as the replacement. Joshua Bitter is still here on the bench. Is someone I wouldn't mind getting rid of, considering that he's quite old and now is a third choice player in that position at 5.5k a week. There is supposed to be some interest in him, but currently there's just been no budget. But you can see they're quite similar to Hoof as well as Ernst with that 2.5-star current ability and potential. Do think it might be a good time to try and let go of him before he enters the final year of his contract. But so far, unfortunately, have not been able to get rid of him. So he might be someone that we let go of if a decent bid does come in. But these days, he's the third choice. But it does mean we're quite deep currently in that right back position. Centre back Carstens is partnering up with Hübner, as we discussed before, for those signings that we did make previously here, and quite good. With Marco Rente, albeit he's 30 years old, and that current ability and potential has dropped down with those signings that we have made, but still the third choice off the back of those deals we did for Hübner as well as for Carstens. Below that, Edson Velasco actually has a fair bit of potential, does the young American formerly of Tormenta FC, but he's just currently not quite there. Probably someone we should give game time to off the bench over someone like Rente. So maybe that's a move that we will make going into that first game of the season, but is currently wanted by Emin. But we've told him that £2.2 million release clause he has, that will need to be triggered because he does have a fair bit of potential. So we'll see if we can keep hold there of Edson Velasco, but now we've got a few more options that are better here in this Jahn Regensburg team. And also, that player that the previous manager did bring in Subotic is another option at centre back. So quite deep there in central defence, especially with some players who can also cover that role, and the likes of Pau Fernandes. Left back was an area that we did not touch. Tim Hamwerker looks like a very handy fullback on support. So a little bit of difference there between what we do on our left-hand side of defence and our right-hand side. But he is 29 years old, 4-star current ability and potential. No need to improve on him because we couldn't find anyone who could, especially with the transfer budget that we did have. You can see his value there is quite high, is wanted by Genk and Fortuna Sittard, but thankfully no bids have come in yet. We'll see if that does end up being an issue later on in the transfer window, but hopefully we are able to keep hold there of Hamwerker down our left-hand side, especially with that little link-up he's got there with our current first choice left winger. The backup at left back usually would be Brian Heim, but going into our first game of the season, he's on a heavy workload, but you can kind of see why didn't need to improve in this position. He's got 3-star current ability and 3.5-star potential, so pretty good there down our left-hand side with a couple of local lads. Now, in terms of midfield, we already added in Castillo and Manrique in the deep line playmaker role. Castillo will start this first game of the season because Manrique is on a heavy workload, but also in the squad previously, that was Andreas Guypool. You can see him there, 35 years old. That's the reason I did feel like we probably should try and freshen up in that position. But to be fair, attribute-wise, he's not too bad, especially in those mentals. The physicals might not let him down too much, but yeah, probably someone that we can use this season, but then maybe he'll retire, so we might let him do that here at Jahn Regensburg. But that's the reason we brought in those more youthful options there in the deep line playmaker role. Shane Bullock, though, was already here as that balling midfielder, and we could not find an upgrade on the Bosnian. You can see him there, 3-star current ability and potential, but some really good attributes for what we need him to do. So that's the reason that he's kept this spot there over the other player that we did bring in Facundo Garcia. And moving forward to up front, and to be fair, both wings, they were largely untouched. Richmond Tashi was already here as a first-choice right winger who can do a job at striker. The Ghanaian at 28 years old with wonderful hair. Red kind of matches the club colours, formerly of Kaiserslautern. He does look pretty good with that 3.5-star current ability and potential, so no reason to upgrade on him. And of course, the previous manager did bring in a new backup there if we go down in Nick Brighton Booker, who did get brought in, of course, from Hoffenheim, so already pretty good at right wing. At left wing, Isaac Abbas was already at the club as well. As you can see, got that nice link up with Hamwerker. He looks pretty decent for that inside forward and attack, especially as he can do a job at striker as well, and his physicals do look quite nice. Has been wanted previously in this window, but thankfully isn't currently, so let's hope we can keep hold of him. He looks like another good option for us there at left wing for this upcoming season. The backup to him, we've got a couple. We've got the Oscar Schonfelder, who is usually the second choice, but another player who comes into this game on a heavy workload, does the 26-year-old formerly of Werder Bremen. And above that, Max Myers on the bench for this game on a medium workload. That's the reason that he'll actually get some game time. Has quite a bit of potential. The current ability, not quite there, so certainly a long-term project there we could have at left wing. And then central attacking midfield, obviously, we brought in Charlie Allen from Linfield, and behind that, Gianluca Galdino was already here. Now, we've got him transfer listed because there's quite a few players that we could sign who would be an improvement on him for that £1.5 million fee and also that 9k a week. So we'll see how long Gianluca Galdino does last here at Jahn Regensburg, but unfortunately isn't wanted at the moment. And we did promise him that he wouldn't be replaced by a different signing that we did make. That was Carlos Manrique, which technically is true, but he might get upset, of course, because we bought in the lad from Linfield, and he will definitely replace him. So he's a player I would quite like to get rid of and bring in someone a bit better as a backup there in central attacking midfield. To be fair, we could always just shift someone like Max Meyer, give him some more regular game time in that position. And then striker Lewis Walden is up top, the lad we bought him from Fulham. And behind that, we've got Christian Coolweeder, who's getting on a little bit, but doesn't look too bad, but probably someone that if we get an offer for, we should probably take it. So I think that's a general run through of our squad here for our first season with Jahn Regensburg. Unfortunately, not much difference despite all those signings to the season preview that we do have, but still, I think with those odds, we should be okay for a mid-table finish. Will just depend on how long it takes us to actually get this team into a tactic that does suit them, as I said, going to try a vertical tiki-taka first up, a 4-2-3-1. We'll see how that goes. Also, we've got that up here, a cautious counter-attacking 4-3-3, and as well as that, we've got another one which is a bit of a 5-2-3, so a couple of different formations, but definitely building around us being here a vertical tiki-taka 4-2-3-1 type team. Let's hope that pays off once we get stuck in to tomorrow's episode, our first couple of games of the season, where we take on Holstein Kiel as well as Eintracht Braunschweig. You can see there the preseason results. They started off really well, a couple of 11-0, 11-1 wins. Our last couple of games, though, against tougher opposition, they have been closest. That is a bit of a concern, but fingers crossed we can actually get off here to a good start this season and try and make sure there'll be no danger of a relegation battle with this Jahn Regensburg team. And also a quick look at our other squads here that we've got here in Germany. There's our B team. There's a few players with a bit of potential, but nothing too special. Dan Ramiro, as you saw earlier, probably the best of them, as well as Semen Kojic, who is a striker out of Bosnia, could be quite handy potentially in the future. And also our under-19s, a few players down here who have a fair bit more potential, but are still quite young, and that current ability isn't quite there. So under-19s, they look quite good. The B team, not so much. So there's definitely some players here that we could promote if we absolutely need to. We'll see how we deal with injuries during the course of this season. Also, our staff here, pretty darn good. So I'd like to think that might also give us a little bit of an advantage here in the 2 Bundesliga. But that will do it here for getting to know a new club in the save in Jahn Regensburg. Hopefully you guys did enjoy that one. It means we can get stuck into our first couple of games of the season in tomorrow's episode. But if you did enjoy this one, then do remember to go down below, leave a thumbs up on the video, and if you haven't done so already and are enjoying the series here on the channel, also make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn that notification bell on as well. As I said, tomorrow we'll come back and get stuck in here for our first couple of games of the 2 Bundesliga. First up, Holstein Kiel, expected to be a little bit of a promotion contender potentially in here. It's the top 2 teams who get promoted. The third team, a promotion relegation playoff with the team that finishes third bottom in the Bundesliga. So a lot tougher here to get promoted up to the Bundesliga. Less chance than there was back in League 2 over in England. But first up, we've got Holstein Kiel, and we back that one up there with Eintracht Braunschweig. Those guys are expected to finish a little bit further down. So a couple of teams we take on tomorrow who are expected to finish mid-table. Fingers crossed we can pick up some points in those first couple of games of the season, and that vertical tiki-taka might do a job for us here at Jahn Regensburg. So until then, thank you very much for watching. Keep on keeping on, and I'll see you then. Cheers.